What's up, cousins? And welcome to another episode of I Just Be Talking, where I talk about it all because I have a lot to say. So, listen. All my ladies out there know what I'm talking about when I say this, but I got the day to blues, okay? And if you understand exactly what I'm saying, you understand exactly what I have been doing all day, which is laying around, napping, snacking, and getting my rest. Today is officially Thursday, April 29th, 2021. And normally on Wednesdays, I am watching Married at First Sight. We are on season 12, I believe, of Married at First Sight. And if you follow me on other social media platforms, more specifically YouTube, then you definitely have seen my commentary going on what is the mess that has become of the matchings of the Married at First Sight season this season. However, it was boring last night. It was not only the Married at First Sight episode, it was the episode, I guess, where they're doing their final conversations with their friends and just kind of finding any and everything to pick apart for dramatic effect to add to the episode. I feel like the editors didn't have a lot to do with this episode, and so it was just pretty much boring. And not only that, but the follow-up episode, which was the second episode of the new show, it's kind of like a spinoff of Married at First Sight, which is the Unmatchables. It was boring. I didn't even get through it. So normally I would be coming on one of my social media platforms to review one of those episodes, but they was boring. So I thought today would be a great time to talk about something else that we have talked about on my platform before, which is Black trauma television. And if you have been living anywhere but under a rock, you have seen some form of Black trauma TV spike in like maybe the last 5 years with the creation or the popularization, I would say, of like the Jordan Peele style of films and TV shows and things like that. But if we're being completely honest, this is actually nothing new. We have been watching a lot of Black trauma for a number of years. And I just thought today would be a great opportunity to talk about it. But not only that, to give you guys some alternatives, because I feel like not enough healthy alternatives are being promoted for a number of reasons, whether or not they're corny or whether or not people just don't know they exist. So I want to jump into it. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is specifically what is Black trauma porn, Black trauma television, or quote unquote entertainment that is centered around Black trauma. And I think it's very important to make a distinction between what is Black trauma TV and what is just dramatic television. And I want to start just by defining what Black trauma is and how we are seeing it being played out in the media. And so I have a couple of different definitions and different articles pulled up, but the one that I'm going to reference today is from NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And right here in the article, it says, despite being currently 5 to 6 generations removed from slavery, the trauma of enslavement was so severe that it implanted a psychological and social shock in the minds of Black people. Current generations still carry the scars mentally and socially. In addition to knowing that this is the history of Black people in America, the systemic racism that has remained in place since the end of slavery has resulted in ongoing racial trauma and injustices in Black people, such as racial profiling, voter suppression, and overrepresentation in the criminal justice system. Enduring constant prejudice, discrimination, and bias takes a toll on one's mental health. They go on to talk about the recurring trauma through the media, such as constantly having to see Black people being brutalized and murdered, such as the murders by the hands of police officers of Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Ahmaud Arbery, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, and George Floyd, just to name so very few, and also adding to that recently Ma'Khia Bryant. It says, unfortunately, Black people have always lived with the fear and worry that at any point in time, either themselves or one of their family members could be the victim of negative interaction with law enforcement. And just taking a step back there, if you are a person of color or you have a child that is a person of color, specifically a Black person, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so when we talk about Black trauma television, we are talking about television that is geared specifically around this kind of trauma. We are not talking about television shows that star Black people that also deal with drama or traumatic events, but we are talking about specifically or the specific targeting of someone through racial profiling or police brutality. In recent television would be, the movie like Get Out or Lovecraft Country, which I actually just watched maybe about 2 weeks ago just to kind of understand more of the conversations going around the show. Also Them, which is on Amazon Prime, which is one that I will not be participating in, but it does fall under that category. And then a couple of older ones, of course, based on true stories that would still fall under Black trauma content, or I wouldn't say entertainment, but is movies like When They See Us or Fruitvale Station, and the continuous wave of retelling the same slave narratives over and over and over again. We do understand how important those stories are to be told, such as the stories of Harriet Tubman. But it does become a point when we have to recognize that those aren't the only stories to be told. And then we also have to recognize that who are we educating at this point when we continue to tell those stories? Or are they just money grabs? Because if you're a Black person in America, I'm pretty sure that you know the story of Harriet Tubman. So why are we continuously making this film over and over and over again? So it does beg the follow-up question, who is Black trauma TV really for? And so this is the topic, or this is the question that I have been presenting to people when we talk about the Black trauma television, and something that I've talked about in my own friend group and with my boyfriend. It just gets to the point where it's like I almost started to feel a point of disgust when I started to watch some of these Black trauma TVs, because it's just like, to know that people are getting what we would say is entertainment from something that is very real, I feel a visceral reaction, whether or not it is a fictional tale or it's based on a true story. I still feel the same visceral reaction in my body when I watch other Black bodies being brutalized or racially profiled or racially targeted. So it's not entertainment for me, even if, there are other parts of the show that piques my interest or grabs my entertainment factors. I still have to deal with that trauma, and I don't think we necessarily realize it because, again, as Black people in America, we are so used to constantly carrying this with us. It is ingrained in us. It is in our DNA to deal with this on a daily basis, but you don't even understand how many different emotions could literally go through your mind and psyche as you're watching things like that. And so in a different LA Times article, it says here that Mark Anthony Neal, chair of the African and African American Studies Department at Duke University, said, for white audiences, these projects offer an opportunity to see things they may not see on a regular basis. While for Black folks, it's the same old, same old. People are really sensitive and raw about the graphicness of the violence because for them, it is not entertainment. And so that's what I mean when I say, who is Black trauma TV really for? Who are we continuously telling these same stories for? Because in my opinion, it is not for Black people. It is for white audiences. They are the ones who need to be educated. They are the ones who apparently need something to be shown to them in 85 different ways before they realize that it is a problem in America. And you have to tug on their heartstrings and add sub characters and a white savior in there here and there for them to understand that it's an issue. And so that's when it becomes where more and more Black people are choosing to take themselves out of the equation when it comes to tuning in to these types of TV shows. Now, I'm not here to say whether or not you should watch them or you shouldn't, but I'm here to say that I understand, and I have been on both sides of the fence when it comes to the topic. For a long time, I did not watch Lovecraft Country for that reason, and I did watch it and I did end up enjoying it. And should they bring back a season 2, I can say that I probably will watch it. African American issues, racially based, historic films and things like that have always interested me. As I get older, I do find that my triggers are more triggering when it comes to certain racially based content. But you have to understand and really listen to yourself, listen to what you need to watch, because I also am somebody, which we'll get to in just a second, who makes sure that I keep a healthy balance and making sure that I am also watching things and consuming content that is happy and light and refreshing and funny, and I'm not just constantly only watching these type of films. So like I said, it's a personal decision. I watched Lovecraft Country. I have not watched them, and I probably will not watch them. I did watch Fruitvale Station. I did not watch When They See Us. I am very familiar with the story, with their story, and with the actual true situation. And I felt like When They See Us, actually watching it, especially with everything that is continuously going on, it just was a little bit much for me. So you constantly have to do those checks and balances with yourself. So with that being said, I thought in this episode, it would be a great time to introduce you guys to just a few current Black shows that aren't centered around Black trauma TV, but not only that, but are kind of refreshing, something that'll give you a good laugh. I decided to keep the ones that I share in this specific episode family friendly, so to speak, something that you can just kind of sit down and watch at the end of the day, no matter whether or not your kids then gone to bed or not. And so I just want to give you guys a brief summary, tell you guys how to find each of these shows, and just a brief review on each of these, because I have watched every episode of every single show. Like I said, I am someone who likes to constantly have anime or comedies or just cartoons, something light on my television, because so many heavy things are going on. And so when I saw Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, starring Jamie Foxx, was coming to Netflix, I do follow Jamie Foxx over on Instagram, and Jamie Foxx is someone who has, and I'm sure will continue to be, very vocal about police brutality and equality here in America, and using his platform to make sure that he speaks out on things that are wrong going on in our society. I have noticed that he has done that, and he has got out on the front lines and not made it about him, but made himself very approachable, and lended his hand when was needed. So I was very interested in supporting this, not only because of that, but because I am a Jamie Foxx fan. I love Jamie Foxx, and I recently just watched the entire 5 seasons of the Jamie Foxx show on BET Plus. I was so excited when they added it, because the Jamie Foxx show is definitely top 10, if not top 5 old school, Black television shows for me. I love it. So Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, the summary premise of the show that is easily found on IMDb is: a single dad and cosmetics brand owner figures out fatherhood on the fly when his strong-minded teenage daughter moves in with him. And this is a Netflix original, so you can find it on Netflix. And this show was very cute. And again, since I follow Jamie Foxx on social media, I was able to connect a lot of the storyline and see where it kind of crossed over into his real life. He does have a daughter. He has more than one daughter, but I was able to read that I believe his daughter is an executive producer for the show. And it's just really cute. His daughter, I believe, is about 14 or 15 on the show. show, and she moves in with him after her mother passes away. The show is set in Atlanta, and Jamie Foxx runs a cosmetic brand that was given to him by, I believe, his mother. And also on the show is his sister, who helps him with the cosmetic brand, but she doesn't work for the cosmetic brand, as well as his dad, who is played by none other than one of my faves, and also fellow In Living Color alum, along with Jamie, David Allen Greer. And I love seeing David Allen Greer pop up on my TV screen ever since In Living Color, ever since he was on Boomerang with my fave, Eddie Murphy. And he also played the dad on another one of my favorite Black sitcoms that is not Black Trauma TV, which is The Carmichael Show. One of the most, I believe, hilarious and, just very time relevant shows. I really hated that it ended when it did. But David Allen Greer was on there, and I'm just always happy to see him when he pops up. He is hilarious to me. And so David plays Jamie's dad, and David, I can't think of what his name is on the show, but he was recently released from prison, and so he's coming to live with Jamie, which is another thing that I believe imitates real life a little bit. I think I read somewhere that is actually true. And so you just, from episode to episode, you get to see that classic, Jamie Foxx funny. He does a few characters. He pops in as a few different people, like the pastor and the white rock star bartender, and he pops in as a couple of other characters, that is just really classic Jamie Foxx humor that you would see on the Jamie Foxx show, as well as in Living Color. And one thing that I will say, that when I initially started watching this show that almost stopped me from watching it, was the fact that he has a white best friend who is also a police officer. And so this white best friend, Jamie has known since high school, and I guess the best friend grows up to be a police officer, and he does have a biracial daughter, which means that at some point he slept with a Black woman, and the daughter and Jamie's daughter are best friends. And so I was a little... I don't know. I really wasn't checking for it. What I'll say. I just really wasn't checking for any kind of kumbaya moment they were trying to have me have with this police officer. Now, I know this is real jobs, and we don't have to continuously make the statements that we know that there are, of course, absolutely good police officers out there. However, that is not the ones that we talking about. And at this day and time, especially around the time that this show premiered, we were in the heat of the Derek Chauvin trial for the murder of George Floyd, which we do now know that he was convicted on all charges. Yes, Lord. But however, I really wasn't checking for it. But what I will say is that this show is only 8 episodes, and I did give this show a 9 out of 10. And the reason I gave it a 9 out of 10 was because it was only 8 episodes. They're about 23 minutes per episode, so pretty standard for a comedic sitcom as far as the length. But I would have loved to get at least 10 episodes, and maybe even 13. Like, remember when Netflix gave us 13 episodes? Like, now they is giving us 6 to 8 episodes for a season. They be making us wait a year for in between, but that is neither here nor there. What I will say is that if you are somebody who first started watching it and you kind of was like, I don't know, keep watching, because the season finale, which was episode 8, is definitely refreshing and definitely addresses probably everything that you were thinking if you had kind of a pause, like, I really ain't here for this white cop best friend type situation. Just keep watching. I don't want to give anything away, but what I will say is that episode 8 made up for any reservations that I had, and they even threw in the most nostalgic moment, having David Allen Greer kind of reprise a beloved character from A Living Color, where he gives us the head goes. So I loved it. Super light and refreshing, like I said, and definitely rewatchable. Like immediately after I finished, I knew I would eventually watch it again before season 2 came out. So check that out. The next show that I want to talk about is one that I literally have not seen anybody but myself talk about. And I wanted to kind of highlight it because this is somebody who has been in our life, especially as Black millennials, and who has been consistently giving us Black trauma free entertainment from the very beginning, which is Kenan Thompson. If you are unaware of Kenan Thompson, really, you really got to be under a rock because we all know Kenan from Kenan and Kel and all that, okay? Kenan has been literally entertaining us our entire lives, and now our boy finally has his own show. You know, Kenan has been on SNL. I believe he is now the longest running castmate of SNL, and he's been on SNL for a long time. And I really feel like more people should give Kenan his flowers. He is consistent, he consistently works, and to me, Kenan is funny. You know, it's one of those things where he definitely has, you know, SNL has that very specific kind of sketch humor, but I rock with Kenan. And so this new show is on NBC, and you can find the replay over on Hulu. And the summary for Kenan is very similar, I want to say, to Dad Stop Embarrassing Me. It is a recently widowed dad tries to raise his kids with his father-in-law. And it was like a very bland summary, like very bland, but that's pretty much the premise. Kenan's wife does pass away, and so that's the only difference. Kenan was actually married. Jamie, he was already a single dad. The parents weren't together. But Kenan's wife passes away, and they have 2 girls together. So his wife's father, who is a white man, moves in with Kenan to help him raise the girls, as well as Kenan's brother, who is also a Black castmate on SNL. His name escapes me right now, but I will always know him as Dank from Dank and Dabby. If you watched Disjointed on Netflix, you know exactly who I'm talking about. So I always call him Dank, but his brother also helps them out as well. I just don't think he lives with them, but it's a very bland summary. But that's the essential premise around the show. Kenan is a early morning talk show host, and he does like early mornings with Kenan. And so the premise around the show is him being a talk show host, and you know, him kind of having this crush back and forth thing with his female producer, who is a gorgeous Black woman. So I do love, one thing that I will say, and I was a little bit worried about this Kenan show, especially when they gave us this white father-in-law, was that they were going to make the mom white, and that they were going to make Kenan have nothing but white and non-Black love interests. And let's just be real. There is nothing wrong with interracial relationships, nothing at all. But you know, when we're seeing representation and things on TV, it's just nice to see Black love. Okay, am I right? If we're talking about Black TV, let's just say that, I mean, we just want to see as many representations of Black love as we can see. And so I was just really glad. His wife was a biracial woman, so of course her dad is a white man, and I'm assuming that her mother was a Black lady. And Kenan's mom is Vanessa Bell Calloway. So, you know, we've gotten some good cameos coming in. And it's basically just Kenan navigating, raising his girls, and a whole lot of funny in between. Now, to me personally, I gave this show a 7 out of 10 for a couple of reasons, especially with the summary and them putting so much, even like the TV show promo photo was like Kenan, his girls, and the dad. And to me, the dad's role is kind of pointless. Like it's not that interesting to me. To me, in this situation, he kind of seems like what I assumed the cop's character was going to be in Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, the show with Jamie Foxx. I assumed that they had put that white cop character in there to kind of, you know, like loosen us up with the idea of there are friendly cops as if we don't already know that. And then also kind of appease the white audiences and white America just by throwing a white person in there to make them feel like they just not watching a blackity black show. Towards the end of Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, I completely understood his role in the show and it made sense. But in this show, in Kenan, is exactly what I feel like. I feel like he is kind of like the token white ad, and that may not be the case at all, but that's just how it comes across to me. Like, I just am not invested in his role whatsoever. He's not that funny to me. He's not that interesting. No offense to the actor whatsoever. But it just kind of feels like a pointless role. I am way more interested in the daughters and Kenan's interaction with the daughters and how he navigates that. I'm actually even really interested in seeing how they're going to develop, this little will they, won't they crush type situation between him and his producer, as well as his interactions with his brother. I do like that. The dad's role just kind of seems kind of pointless. And then even with the show as a whole, it doesn't really go there. And again, I keep comparing it to the previous show, Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, even though they are on two completely different platforms. And I'm sure, they are not competing with each other. But when I'm just talking about similar premises, they definitely go there on Dad Stop Embarrassing Me while also being still goofy and funny. This show is going to be just a purely goofy show. They're not going to go there at all. In fact, I found it very interesting that they are completely ignoring COVID even existing on this show. It's one of the first shows that I've seen do this, I think. And maybe even on Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, now that I think about it. I don't know if they addressed it on that one at all either. I don't know if moving forward in 2021, a lot of especially comedic shows are just choosing to completely skip over it because people do need a break, right? Like, people need to just kind of not think about the pandemic and everything, especially when they're going to just kind of relax and unwind and find the funny. But it was especially because they don't go there in any other aspect either. It was just kind of odd that they are even addressing it at all. But I guess that, that's just a personal preference, is not necessarily a bad thing. But I will say it's a certain kind of funny, again, that SNL kind of funny, and that kind of funny where you wonder how many actual black writers are in the room, or if it's just Kenan and the brother that maybe has some input in what the writers got to say. Because while there are a few black jokes that I chuckle at, for the most part, I just chuckle because I enjoy, watching Kenan, and I need just that like lighthearted, just something to put on the TV that's not real heavy. I do think that it's worth checking out. The season finale just aired this past Tuesday, so the 27th. So all the episodes should now be up on Hulu if you do have a Hulu account. And if you're just looking for something light and funny to watch over the weekend, definitely give it a try. The last show, and I saved this one for last because this was actually a recommendation that I got from you guys when I talked about this topic over on YouTube and Instagram. I was giving you guys a whole bunch of different recommendations for shows that you could watch that weren't Black Trauma TV, and in return, I asked you guys to give me some recommendations, and a couple of you guys actually recommended The Neighborhood on CBS, starring Seth the Entertainer and Tashina Arnold. And so the summary for this show is: a friendly guy from the Midwest tries to fit into a tough LA neighborhood. And now, so if you have never seen the show, again, the show stars Seth the Entertainer, and he is married to Tashina Arnold. Which, shout out to Tashina, okay? If one thing Tashina gonna do is Tashina gonna keep a check as somebody's mama, and I ain't mad at it, okay? Again, a lot of these people are giving us trauma-free Black television over the years. If we just take the time to think about it, he was on The Soul Man, married to Niecy Nash at the time. And now he's here with Tashina Arnold. And when I tell you, I have really really been enjoying this show. It has been a breath of fresh air. Now, I will say that the summary is a little misleading. A friendly guy, which is the white guy. So I'm going to tell you what the premise of the show is. Sid and Tashina live in a neighborhood in LA. I think they're saying they're in the Pasadena area. And a white family, Dave and his wife, Gemma, moves in. And so I just finished. I'm all caught up. I just caught, it's like going on. The show is still airing right now. So I just caught the last episode. I binged all 3 seasons like in a week. But a white family moves next door to Sid, and it's essentially he acted just like how black folks act when a white family these days move in. You expecting them to move in, and they're trying to gentrify the neighborhood, and black folks don't be here for it. And so basically, we watch kind of Sid navigate from being super intolerant and skeptical and downright rude to little old Dave, okay? Downright rude, but we watch him navigate building a friendship with him and just really the entire family. Tashina and Sid have 2 older kids, Malcolm and Martin, and so it didn't pass me there that they have kids named Malcolm and Martin. But we also got another nostalgic moment when we find out that Martin, his nickname is Marty. His full name is Martin Lawrence Butler, and I thought that was hilarious. So it was like a nostalgic shout out to Martin Lawrence, which brings us back to Tashina Arnold being Pam. And so not only do we get those nostalgic moments there, and not only do we get another classic black family TV show, but what I like about this show is that they go there. Again, this is aired on CBS, and you can watch the replays and things like that on Amazon Prime. That's where I watched it. But this is one of those shows where I said you aren't quite sure who the writers are in the writing room of Kenan. With the neighborhood, I'm almost positive it's black writers in that writing room, and it's more than one. It just feels like black writers are all up and through that script, through the super relatable black jokes, and just not just like your typical black jokes that a white writer would write. Like you could tell when a white writer writes a quote unquote black joke and when a black writer writes a black joke. Like you can just tell the nuance in it, and who is keeping up with what black people really saying over the years and stuff that we really say behind closed doors in black houses. And I would be shocked, I tell you, to find out that it has no black writers. Like I just know for a fact, especially in one of the most recent episodes where Dave and Calvin is Sid's character, Dave is the white guy's character. They're going together during the protest to try to track down Calvin's son Malcolm, who is out in the middle of the protest for another instance of police brutality in LA. And the conversation they had in that truck, y'all, gave me chills. It gave me chills. And the fact that they were willing to go there and say the actual things that black people have been saying very much so and very loudly, even if people didn't want to hear it during the uprisings, I literally wanted to stand up and clap. I had to record it, put it on my social medias. I was so proud of them for going there. And I like that about this show. It is very funny. It is very lighthearted. It is very TGIF, very kid friendly. It is hilarious. But then they also go there when they need to go there. And I think that's what's really important about shows like this, and the bridge between the gap of let's create educational, quote unquote, informative television that is informing our white audiences, but is also being honest and true to the black experience. I believe The Neighborhood does a great job of educating white audiences without traumatizing the black ones, okay? Black people can deal with difficult topics. We black, we deal with it every day, but you ain't got to traumatize us with it. And that's what I love about The Neighborhood. I actually gave it a 9.5 out of 10 just because, ain't no show perfect. It ain't perfect. And I can't tell you right now what I'm taking out point 0.5 points for, because it is a good show. And again, it was one of those shows that as soon as I finished the most recent current episode, I just started it all over again. And it is something that my boyfriend enjoys watching. If I'm watching it, he'll come in and start watching as well. He's very entertained by it. So if you haven't checked out The Neighborhood, that is one that I highly suggest watching. I have put a lot of people on that show in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people have been hitting me up and DMing me telling me that they are now hooked on that show because of me. And so I think it's really important that whether or not you choose to watch the Black trauma television, whether or not you do get entertainment out of that, it's just also, again, having shows that you can sit down with your family and watch and laugh and release, and make sure that you are keeping a healthy balance in what you consume. So yeah, that's it, guys. Like I said, I have so many, especially if you caught the list that I posted in the community tab on my YouTube channel. So many different recommendations for trauma-free Black television. Now, all of them aren't comedies because, like I said, it can be dramatic television with Black people and not be Black trauma, okay? So if you are interested in more television shows that you can watch that won't traumatize you, hit me up on social media, check out my list, let me know what you thought of the podcast, share it with others, and until next episode, peace.